A sign might be revealing hidden feelings, and perhaps it is not by chance that you clicked on this video precisely today. There are things the heart tries to silence. There are emotions a person hides even from themselves. But there are moments when heaven allows small signs to escape, as if they were cracks of truth piercing through the silence. And I will tell you with all affection, when a message like this reaches you, the wisest thing is not to ignore it. It's to feel it. It's to take a deep breath. It's to pay attention. Because in my vision, when the angels begin to show signs, it's because something important is wanting to come to light. There is someone who tries to look firm, distant, controlled, but inside they carry feelings they couldn't erase. Perhaps this person hasn't spoken clearly. Perhaps they pulled away. Perhaps they preferred silence instead of sincerity. Only the feeling didn't disappear like they imagined. The angels show that there exists a kept truth, stifled by fear, pride, confusion, or insecurity. And the most interesting thing is that this truth started to look for a path to appear. That's where the signs come in. You might have perceived a very strong memory arising without reason. You might have felt an emotional presence difficult to explain. You might have seen this person's name, dreamed about them, remembered something out of nowhere, or felt your heart tighten in a moment when apparently nothing was happening. A lot of people call this coincidence. But I sincerely believe that not everything that repeats is coincidence. Sometimes it's the spiritual trying to touch what reason cannot organize. And I know that hearing this messes with you. It messes because when there exists hidden feeling, there also exists doubt. You ask yourself if you are imagining too much, if you are creating hope where there exists nothing, if you are interpreting events badly. Only the angels show me that this restlessness wasn't born out of emptiness. There exists a real movement behind this. There exists a heart that tries to control itself, but that is not as free as it looks. Take a deep breath for a moment. If you are listening to this message with a tired heart, stay with me until the end. I know that it is not always easy to listen about signs when the soul has already passed through disappointments, when the waiting was long, when the other person's silence has already hurt more than it should. But there is something important happening. And what I am going to reveal to you now can change the way you see this connection. The angels show that this person comes fighting against what they feel, not because there doesn't exist love, interest, or longing, but because recognizing this would demand attitude. And attitude scares whomever spent too much time hiding behind their own confusion. There are people who feel a lot, but speak little. There are people who love, but run away precisely because loving touches where they didn't want to touch. And perhaps you are linked to someone like that. This someone might have tried to move forward, look indifferent, feign normality, occupy themselves with other things, distract themselves, harden themselves. But inside them there exists a movement that can no longer be contained in the same manner. The angels show insistent memories, inevitable comparisons, desire to know about you, curiosity about your life, longing for what was lived, and an increasing difficulty to act as if nothing mattered. And this, my friend, is already a sign. Before continuing, write this mantra in the comments. I receive with serenity what heaven desires to show me. Write it with faith. Because when we write, the heart seems to align with what is being released over our life. And when you write, you don't just comment, you agree spiritually with a direction. Now continue with me, because there still exists a very important part of this message. The angels say that the signs don't appear only to reveal the other person's feeling. They also appear to prepare you. This is very profound. Because sometimes the woman is looking so much at what the other feels that she forgets to observe what she herself needs to feel with clarity. And today, heaven wants to bring clarity to both sides. It's not enough to know if there exists hidden feeling. It's necessary to understand what this feeling represents, what it wants to build, and if it comes accompanied by truth. In my opinion, this is a point that a lot of people ignore. Connected hearts don't always mean a viable path. Not every hidden feeling deserves to be lived. Not all longing means change. Not all memory is maturity. Only, in this case, the angels show that it is not just about nostalgia. There exists a real discomfort in this person. There exists an increasing perception of loss. There exists the weight of perceiving that perhaps they allowed something too valuable to escape. This person began to miss you in ways they didn't expect. And I don't speak only of your physical presence. I speak of your energy, of the way you comprehended, of the form as your presence transmitted something difficult to find in another place. The angels show that this began to return to their memory with more strength. Small details gained value. Old conversations gained another meaning. Moments that looked common now appear as something rare. Perhaps you think, if they feel all this, why don't they speak? And that is a fair question, very fair. But the angels show fear, fear of being rejected, fear of looking for you and perceiving that you changed, fear of discovering that you are no longer available emotionally like before, fear of facing their own errors, fear of opening the heart and not knowing what they are going to find on the other side. I receive many messages from people living something similar, and one thing repeats: whomever hides feeling for too long begins to be won by their own signs. The person tries to control it, but the heart begins to escape in gestures, in attitudes, in curiosities, in indirect approaches, in silences full of meaning. And that is what the angels are showing here. There is something escaping. There is truth wanting to appear. You can perceive this movement in small behaviors, an unexpected view on social media, a reactivated memory, a presence that returns to hover, a name that reappears, an indirect contact, a different energy, a repeated dream. And I am not saying for you to live in function of this, but to observe with calm. Because when heaven wants to reveal something, it usually starts through the details. Now, I want to ask you for a simple but powerful thing. Write 777 in the comments as an act of agreement with this message and as a request for clarity for your heart. And let me tell you one more thing with much affection. If this content is truly helping you, and you feel in your heart that this message deserves to continue reaching more lives, you can support the channel by donation on the QR code that appears in the video or by the link that is in the description and pinned comment. This gesture of love helps this word to continue arriving in whomever needs comfort, direction, and hope. The angels show that there is a connection still active between you and this person. Not necessarily a resolved connection, but a live connection. And when I say live, I want to say that it continues producing an emotional echo. What was lived between you didn't stay totally closed in the interior of them. On the contrary, there exists a part of this bond that continues asking for an answer. Perhaps the problem was time, perhaps it was pride, perhaps external influences, perhaps an emotional immaturity that prevented this person from dealing with what they felt. But now the angels show a phase in which they already can no longer run away with the same ease. That which was pushed far is returning inside, and this creates restlessness. You know what I think when I hear a message like this? That the human heart even manages to hide, but it doesn't manage to erase by decree. Nobody commands the feeling like whomever turns off a light. Sometimes the person tries, insists, rationalizes, distracts themselves, enters into denial. Only the truth remains there, waiting for a crack in pride to manifest itself, and it looks like that crack started. The angels show me nights of thought, moments of comparison, an emptiness difficult to fill, and a silent perception that you marked this heart in a different way. This person can even not admit it publicly, but in many moments they have already felt that they lost something important. and this sensation is getting stronger. But there still exists something that you need to understand. Heaven doesn't want only to tell you that this person feels. Heaven wants to strengthen you, not to lose yourself emotionally in the middle of this revelation, because a sensitive woman, when she perceives a sign, often delivers before the time what she should observe with calm. So listen to this with affection. Perceiving a sign doesn't mean running behind. Perceiving a sign doesn't mean accepting any return. Perceiving a sign means opening your eyes, not losing your dignity, and letting truth reveal itself whole. If you aren't subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Here there is always a word of faith for when the heart needs to breathe, think with calm, and strengthen itself inside. And I really like to remind this because nobody should pass through difficult emotional moments without a voice of welcome nearby. The angels show that this person feels your energy even at a distance. There are moments when they remember you out of nothing, in which they feel a desire to know how you are, in which they try to disguise it, but they can't prevent memory from returning. And it is not a cold memory. It is a memory loaded with feeling, awareness, comparison with the present. Perhaps they have tried to find in other situations the same peace, the same connection, the same comfort, but perceived that it wasn't equal. And this started to disorganize that false certainty that they cultivated, because it is much easier to sustain the silence when one believes that everything was only passing. The difficult thing is to sustain the silence when one begins to perceive that it was important truly. I know that for you, this can bring hope and also protection at the same time. A part of yours perhaps thinks, is it going to go now? Another part perhaps asks itself, is it worth it? And I think beautiful this maturity that life keeps creating, because before perhaps you wanted only to be looked for. Today, perhaps you want to be looked for with truth, and there is a lot of difference in that. The angels ask that you observe one thing. This person is getting closer to a point where silence is going to begin to weigh more than courage. This is strong. When silence hurts more than acting, the person begins to change inside. And it is precisely there that something can happen. A message, an approach, a contact attempt, an unexpected gesture, a clearer movement. The angels are sending you a special sign. Your lucky number for today is 8. Write in the comments, I receive the energy of the angels. My lucky number is 8, and I receive this message with faith. The number 8 carries strength, continuity, restoration, and what returns with more awareness. Receive this in your heart. But let me tell you something that I consider essential. If there is an approach, don't deliver your peace before perceiving consistency. Hidden feeling can be true, but it needs to learn to transform into attitude. And attitude is not a beautiful promise. Attitude is presence, it's constancy, it's truth, it's emotional responsibility. The angels don't want you to live on signs eternally. They want you to know how to see when the signs are opening a path for something concrete. There is also a part of this message that speaks about healing, because feeling that someone hides something can trap your mind a lot. You begin to try to decipher everything, interpret everything, reread everything, expect everything. And this tires you out. That's why the angels ask that you preserve your peace. The feeling of the other cannot turn into a prison for you. What is true needs to find the right path. What is yours truly doesn't need to be torn from anyone's heart by force. Now I want to invite you for an important moment. Write in the comments a list of people, including yourself, whom you would like to forgive. Visualize each of them, send love, and say, I forgive you and I release you. May peace be with you. Feel the lightness this brings, because often clarity only arrives when the accumulated weight begins to exit the heart. The angels show that there exists something being worked in the interior of this person. It is not just longing. It's awareness, it's perception, it's an internal confrontation. It's the beginning of a truth organizing itself inside. And sincerely, I think that this changes everything, because when someone only misses you, they can continue running away. But when someone begins to understand the value of what they lost, the movement gets more serious. This person has asked themselves more than you imagine if there still exists space in your heart. They have thought if there is still a chance. They have stayed restless with the possibility of you being following life in a lighter, stronger, more conscious way. And this messes deeply with them because it forces them to face the idea that time doesn't wait forever. Perhaps there existed a phase in which they believed that you always would be there, emotionally accessible, waiting, feeling available. Only the angels show a change in you, an internal change, more self-worth, more perception, more limits, more truth with yourself. And this change started to be perceived, even without big words. This makes this person feel two things at the same time: admiration and fear. Admiration for seeing your strength, fear of perceiving that perhaps they went too far in silence, in pride, or in omission. And it is exactly this mix that can drive a more serious attitude. If you are listening to this now at night in silence, perhaps even with a heavy heart, I want you to feel something very important. You are not alone. This message didn't arrive to make you more anxious. It arrived to bring you lucidity, so that you see, but without losing yourself, so that you feel, but without abandoning your peace, so that you perceive the signs, but don't turn into a slave of them. The angels show that this story still didn't reveal everything it keeps. There exists a hidden part coming to the surface. There exists a feeling that is stopping fitting in the hiding place in which it was placed. There exists a heart beginning to understand that running away didn't resolve anything. And there exists you, being prepared to discern, with calm and strength, what to do when truth begins to appear with more clarity. Share this video with two dear people who need this message today. And if you can, leave also in the comments a prayer for your guardian angel. I think beautiful when this space turns a chain of faith between people who perhaps don't even know each other, but sustain themselves in prayer. The angels show me that soon a detail can confirm what today still looks like doubt. It can be a word, a gesture, a return, an approach attempt, a more evident behavior. And when this happens, remember what was said here. Don't get emotional only with the appearance of the sign. Observe the consistency of it. See if there exists truth accompanying this movement. See if there exists humility. See if there exists presence. See if there exists real effort. Because hidden love, when it matures, begins to want to become clear. It steps out of the fog. It stops living only in thought. It begins to ask for shape. And the angels show precisely that. Something is exiting the hidden and walking to the visible. I believe deeply that there are situations in which heaven doesn't allow anymore, that the emotional lie continue commanding. And this can be one of those moments, not because everything will be perfect from one hour to another, but because truth is getting too heavy to continue hidden. So keep this in the heart. The sign that you have perceived didn't come to confuse you. It came to awaken your attention. It came to show that there exists something alive behind the silence. It came to remind that not every story finishes when words end. Some continue breathing hidden until truth finds courage. And at the same time, this sign came to remind you of your value, to show that you don't need to beg for what is true. You don't need to diminish yourself to be chosen. You don't need to run behind what is being worked by heaven itself. What you need is to remain firm, lucid, sensitive, and in peace. If this message spoke with you, write in the comments, "What is true will find the path to me." Share your experience, like this video, and subscribe to the channel for more messages like this. Thank you for being here with me. May God bless your life, strengthen your heart, and give you clarity to recognize what comes from heaven and what already doesn't deserve to remain in your soul. Until the next video.